I'm going to focus on a group of free agents that I have labeled the Boras Four. Boras being, of course, Scott Boras, the agent for the Stars. He has the top remaining four free agents. Scott, if you're watching or listening, a couple of caveats because I know you can get a little irritated once in a while when people say or write things. First of all, the Boras Four, it's not a pejorative. It's not like the Chicago Seven. Look it up, kids, if you don't know what that is. And also, I know, Scott, also, you have more than four free agents remaining. The four I'm going to focus on, of course, are Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Matt Chapman, and Cody Bellinger. But in addition, Scott Boras represents the following free agents: JD Martinez, Rhys Hoskins, Hyunjin Ryu, James Paxton, and I'm probably missing a couple. I apologize. But let's dive into the Boras Four, and I want to start and really focus more on Snell, Chapman, and Bellinger than Montgomery, because with Snell, Chapman, and Bellinger, there is a list of pros and cons. These are not perfect free agents. They're guys with some questions surrounding them. So let's start with Blake Snell. Obvious pros. This guy is a two-time Cy Young winner, once in each league. You see it right there in the pros section. Also, 1.20 ERA in his final 23 starts. Joel Sherman of the New York Post had a note in his column. That's the best 23 start regular season period since Gibson in 1968. Pretty good. And for all the questions we'll get to about his walks, only 12 of his 99 walks scored. That's 12.1%. That's about half the league average. So he kept those guys from scoring, even though, as you see in the list of cons, he had the highest walk rate in the majors, highest since Matt Clement in 2000, 13.3%. Also, the 4 seasons in between the Cy Youngs, he was basically a league average pitcher. So, who is Blake Snell? Is he the Cy Young guy, or is he the other guy, the guy from 2019 to 2022? That is something teams will have to decide. Okay, we keep going here. The next guy on the Boras Four to discuss, Matt Chapman. Now, Matt Chapman is a great defender, 4-time Gold Glove winner at third base. He is someone who has won 2 Platinum Gloves as well, and he too has some pros and cons. You see the 4 Gold Gloves? He also is a very durable guy. Looking at his pros, average 149 games in his 5 full seasons. And this year, despite a kind of offensive regression in the final 5 months of the season, his hard hit rate was in the 100th percentile. He was better than anyone in the majors as far as hard hit rate was concerned. The cons, though, are the results. Batted .203 with a .659 OPS after May 1st. That's not great. He had a great April, not so good after that. And his 17 home runs were his lowest in a full season since 2019. So, Matt Chapman, what are you buying? You're buying a durable guy, a guy who is a brilliant defender, someone who is a steady and a positive offensive player. He's an above average league player from an offensive point of view, well above average, actually. Not Mike Schmidt-like, but he is an okay hitter. Wouldn't say great, and certainly last year he had his struggles, but he also had a finger injury in the final 2 months that might have contributed. So there are still teams that are going to look at Matt Chapman, and they're going to like what they see. The Giants could be one of them, but there are others as well. And frankly, I know the Blue Jays have signed Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. If I were the Blue Jays, I'd still be trying to sign Matt Chapman. So that's 2 of the 3 that I wanted to discuss. And the third, the international man of mystery, Cody Bellinger. And I say that international man of mystery because Bellinger is somewhat like Snell. Who is this guy? Is it the guy who was the MVP and the guy who was brilliant last year for the Cubs? Or is it the guy who struggled in the 3 seasons in between, in part due to injuries? Cody Bellinger has his own list of pros and cons. The pros, well, you see it right there. 307 batting average for the Cubs last year, 26 homers and 881 OPS. Outstanding. His age also is a positive. He's entering his age 29 season, relatively young for a free agent, and he is a versatile defensive player. Gives you above average defense both at center field and first base. You can do it in both areas with him. Cons, kind of curious. His hard hit percentage, his exit velocities are low, opposite of Chapman. Chapman has the great hard hit numbers and the low results or the poor results. Bellinger, poor hard hit numbers and great results. And of course, the other con is what he was between 2012 2020 and 2022, he had an OPS 5% below the league average in those seasons. So that's 3 of the 4. I didn't really touch on Jordan Montgomery here because Jordan Montgomery, to me, is kind of straightforward. He is a really good major league pitcher, a guy who elevated his value in the postseason with his performance last year. He was exactly what the Yankees thought he wasn't when they traded him for Harrison Bader. He was a good postseason pitcher. So Jordan Montgomery, is he an ace? I don't know that he's an ace, but he's a number 2 or 3. Absolutely, he is that. So that's the Boras Four. I know there's more, but those are the guys that right now are kind of the focus of the industry. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Scott Boras plays it with these guys. He, as we know, will wait until he gets the offer he wants. He is not afraid to do that. Kind of has nerves of steel at this time of year. Sometimes, often, he gets what he wants. Sometimes he doesn't. And we'll just have to see how this all plays out for him. I would expect the 2 pitchers are going to do well. I would expect Bellinger's going to do well and Chapman too. The question is how well.